Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Dating Made Simple on the It's Just Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and sitting right across from me, the famous, the one, the only, Bob Walls.
Tom, it's great to be here. And it's especially great because it's your birthday.
Well, thank you.
Today, thank you. Birthday.
Thank you. It is my birthday.
And in honor
today.
of your birthday, I decided I'd wear a shirt to match yours.
To match me?
Yeah.
I didn't want to get you a present.
See?
I didn't want to get you anything because, that's a
Well,
lot of money. But I thought I could at least wear a shirt that matches this shirt in honor of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
There you go. I feel honored, more honored than you can imagine.
Well,
you're
flying to Arizona today for your birthday.
I am.
Now, that is a birthday present.
Yes. Going down to see my girl and my baby girl and her husband.
A little granddaughter visit on your birthday.
Yeah, very exciting.
Well, you're only 40 once, so.
I'm a young grandfather.
Yes, you are.
So, hey, Macie, welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Our co-host.
I'm the co-host, and I didn't get the memo that I was supposed to wear red.
I should have called
Macie.
you.
You should have told me, Bob.
I should have called you ahead of time.
Come on, Macie.
I should have known because it was Tom's birthday. He loves the Diamondbacks. I should have worn red.
Just wish him a happy birthday. That'll be enough.
Hey, I did. I got him a Snickers.
She did.
I love Snickers.
She did buy me a present.
She
cared enough to get me a present.
I just wore this shirt. That's all I did. That was not too much. Snickers bar. That's great.
Well, Bob and Macie in studio right now. We have a guest.
We do.
We do.
Yes, that's fun.
This is Anjilee Ferguson. Anjilee actually works here at BYU.
Wow.
Yeah.
And get this, started a online school, 6th to 12th grade.
Wow.
And the reason why she's here is she's written an amazing book. We'll show it.
I see the book there.
For everybody watching.
It matches
it's her
your
book.
shirt.
I just took it away from
for your
her.
birthday. It matches your shirt.
I planned ahead.
Yes. Now that's thinking.
It matches. It's yes, no, maybe so. A comedy of dating, divorce, and devotion.
Wow.
It's her book. So welcome, Anjilee.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first off, I'm going to have her, before we do anything else, tell us, where's the name come from?
So, funny enough, it had a different title when I submitted it to a publisher.
Okay.
And it was called Unicorn Blood and Other Dating Remedies. Because there's a story in my book that relates to unicorn blood. And without giving it away, you'll have to read it.
Okay.
It's pretty epic. I'm not going to lie. I can't make this stuff up. I'm not creative, right? And when I submitted it to the publisher, they said, well, that's great, but you have this whole other layer of like dating after divorce too. So your market is a little bit wider than just dating.
Right.
Wow.
Appealing to the masses. And so I had to come up with just different ideas. And so yes, no, maybe so was kind of what I settled on. You know, the uncertainty of dating. Like, is this the one? Is it no?
Right.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Right.
So according to your publishers, divorced people just don't understand unicorn blood.
I guess, yeah. I mean, who really
Come
does?
on, step it up, folks.
I'm dying to know about this unicorn blood.
Yeah, it's a good story. I'm telling you.
So between you and them, you settled on the name.
Yep, we did.
So, and it's a comedy.
Yeah, a comedy of errors.
And a tragedy.
Right. Yes, it is. Yeah, very much. I joke because the whole inspiration behind writing this, I started writing it when I was about 25, in the thick of the dating world and all the games and all the frustrations, right? And I would just write these horror stories as they happened because I thought, man, there's no guidebook for dating, right? And
only this podcast.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, when I was 25, it wasn't around.
We didn't have, see, and if we had,
right, you would have been the guidebook, right? But yeah, so anyway, I would write it down. Yeah, and I mean, I had cousins, parents, they were all married younger, right? Like none of them knew what it was like to be over the age of 20, dating in the church, all the games, all the dysfunction, all the expectations, right? And so I said, I'm going to write that book because I have a lot of crazy stories that you just can't make up. And I would have family members, friends, coworkers. They'd be like, man, your life could be a sitcom. Like, are you for real?
So are these all stories that you personally experienced?
Yes, these are all real life.
So these are your roommates told you these stories,
no,
or this
these
is
are,
all you?
All firsthand. And don't worry, they all have code names so that their anonymity is protected.
Well, except for you. We know that you are the person.
I'm the person, but all the
protagonist, confidential.
Yes,
Anjilee, just so you know, our most popular episodes are the bad date stories.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, well, plenty of them in here.
Right.
So basically, they can listen to the podcast or also
read the book.
Yeah,
read the book.
So
the book's always better than the movie, right?
It is. It totally is.
So you were taking notes along the way or journaling all of your dates.
I was.
And all the ups and downs and all the things that you did right and wrong and everything. And so then you compiled this book. That's an amazing feat.
Thank
do
you.
that.
We must point out here that you were attending another university, not this one,
Oh,
when
that's
all
right.
these terrible things happened to you.
Some of them, yes.
Some of
It was
them, yes.
also after college. Because,
After
you know,
college.
Yeah,
Okay, because the
college
dating
and
went
after.
on. Dating does not end, kids, after
No,
college. They're
it
still
does not.
dating post-college.
So I'm interested to have you like maybe tease some of your stories.
Yeah.
So maybe start at the beginning and tell us what are some of the first chapters, because we want everybody listening to go out and buy this book.
Okay.
So take us through like where does the book start and
Yeah.
some of the stories that exist there.
Yeah, so I kind of just take it on my journey, right? Like I was young for my grade, and so I could not date my entire sophomore year, right? And I was so excited to date. And my friends had been dating for a while, and so I was so excited, you know, school dances were my thing. I loved that, was hanging out with friends a lot. But I just kept getting friend zoned. You know, I was always told, you're one of the guys. You're one of the guys. Your mom thought you look like your dad. You know, I've heard that a lot. It's detailed in here. You know,
that's painful.
Yeah, it is.
And you kept those confidential, huh? Those guys who, well, probably does.
I mean, if they read it, they might feel a little twinge of, you know, oh, I think I said that once, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, so that kind of colored my dating history, right? Like I went in with this, well, no one's ever going to see me as a dating prospect because I'm just one of the guys, right?
Yeah.
So I operated there for a long time, like through college, you know, and I was just noticing that the only dates I was having were kind of hangouts with friends because that was where I was comfortable. That's what I was good at, right?
Hanging out with the boys.
Hanging out with the boys.
Because that's all the boys are comfortable doing.
Right?
True.
Yeah. And I mean, I graduated college at 20. So I was pretty young.
20?
Yeah.
She is really smart.
She is very
really smart.
Well,
maybe she was a sophomore
Yeah,
at 15.
15.
Yeah.
No,
Took you
no,
5 years
17.
to get a bachelor's, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I was young and I
Yeah.
recognized that, right? So as I was writing this book, I was like, wow, my dating was really kind of initial years in college, really foreshadowed by my prefrontal cortex wasn't even fully formed yet, right?
Yeah.
So I look back and think, wow, I was a dumb 19-year-old, a dumb 20-year-old, right? And then looking back and then as I got older, you know, you're in the singles ward, you're playing the game, you're having the same dating pool and you're trying to find the right fit for you.
Mhm.
And actually the unicorn blood story does come from one of those singles wards. where I was really interested in this guy.
You know, just that
things
story is
went
worth
south.
buying the book for.
Right. It really
I know,
is.
literally.
That was kind of the whole inspiration behind
Yeah.
that book. That was
Yeah.
my wow, this was a really bad one. I'm going to write a book about
Wow.
it.
I got to go buy your book now just to hear that
Yes.
story.
It's a good one.
Can you tease it a little bit?
I will, yeah. So it was the singles ward, interested in the guy, you know, and he kind of basically said, well, if other people see me with you, then they're not going to see me as a dating prospect. So I was like,
What?
Oh.
yeah. So I was like, all right, then
Oh.
let's just be friends. We'll just be friends. No harm, no foul. It's the very beginning. you
No
know?
harm.
Well, not yet, anyway. And so I said, okay, let's be friends. But then he would see me talking to this other guy in the ward and would kind of act like he had ownership, right? And so
I don't like this guy.
yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, so part of this book story that I don't share in the book is so these two guys are kind of competing for my attention, right? And the one I'm like kind of writing him off because I'm like, you've already made it clear you just want to be friends.
Right.
Like, step aside, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and so then the other guy asks me to this concert, and I was like, sweet, here's my chance. I can see if there's something here. And it was a group of us from the singles ward. And we get there, and his best friend is there with his date. And it becomes apparent early on that my date is interested in his best friend's
no.
date. And I just
no.
felt like
Ooh.
this third wheel, this
That's-
whole third wheel situation. And the concert wasn't even that good.
Oh, painful.
I was like, man, if this was better music, I could have like salvaged it, right? But
No.
so yeah, just those awkward situations where you think, oh, they're interested in me, and then it's just
Mhm.
totally
That's
flips. And you're like,
terrible.
okay, well,
That's
I get it.
terrible.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
blood part comes in later when you kill this person,
That's-
right?
Yeah, where does this
Wanted to
unicorn, where does
kill.
the unicorn
Yeah.
come in?
Okay.
Your key word will be tinsel. It makes
Okay.
sense. Tinsel is where
Tinsel.
the
All right.
unicorn blood.
Don't give us
okay.
any more.
Shiny-
Don't give us any more because
shininess
now I
of
want to.
tinsel.
Everyone needs
Okay.
to buy the book and read the story.
It's a good one.
All right. So where does the book go from there? So you've graduated from college. Now what? Tell us about where else you are in this.
Yeah, so then I'm just kind of living my life in a career, attending the singles ward, doing my part. We're having game nights weekly with the singles ward, trying to just get something to stick,
Yeah,
right? Because we're
yeah.
in the middle of the dating game. But I still just had that, you're the friend friend zoned. And so I kind of gave up on dating for a while because I was like, this is just not worth it.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, yes. Right? Like, I think we've all been there before where we're just like, I'm not going to put forth the effort. I've tried. I've been burned one too many times. I'm just over it. So I kind of just like gave up for a little bit, started pursuing my own hobbies because I thought, hey, this is the time for me to do that.
Right.
I'm single. Why not seize the day? Right. So I planned trips with friends, spur of the moment, went to Florida. I joined an all-girls cover band.
Oh,
nice.
okay.
Nice.
I want to try that. Why not?
Yeah.
And the lead singer of that band, she actually set me up with my now ex-husband.
So do you like her now looking back? Or
I do. I don't blame her. Right?
It wasn't her fault.
Not her fault. Other people's agency, right? But yeah, so I was just kind of living my life. And then when I got set up on this blind date, I really wasn't feeling it because I was like, I'm going to be single till I'm 45 and that's fine. Right. It just resolved, right? If it happens before then, great. I'll just be pleasantly surprised. And so I had kind of given up and anyway, got set up on this date, decided, okay, the expectations hit you, right? Like I'm 26 years old. I'm the oldest of 4, right? So it's like, you're supposed to be the first to do all these things, right? Like you're the oldest, you should be married and you should be doing this. I now use the phrase, you really need to stop shoulding on yourself because those shoulds like really,
quit shitting on yourself.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Right? Yeah. I was like, I feel like that's relevant because we all play that game, right? Yeah. And I think especially in this culture, we have this air of perfectionism, right? Like we want to portray that we've got it all figured out and we're in the norm and we're doing our part. And, so that played a big factor in my finally giving love a chance because I was like, okay, I need to give it a chance, right? So moved forward with marriage, wasn't what I expected, and then got divorced and then was back into the dating game.
Yeah, there you go.
Right before COVID.
Wow.
And
Boy, did you hear that? It was all at the same time.
I was like, again, this is why my life is a sitcom because it's like the timing, really. Like I'm getting my feet wet after 8 years of not having a first date.
Yeah.
And then boom, COVID shuts everything down. And I had never caved and did the whole dating app thing because I thought it was so impersonal when it first came out, right? Like I was very much I want to meet you in person.
Yeah.
We clicked. And
we hear that a lot.
Yeah. But then COVID, like how else am I supposed to meet people, right? And so then it kind of chronicles that journey of also learning how to trust myself again.
Yeah. Now I need to ask really quick, did you do a lot of Zoom dates or did you try that?
Zoom dates? Actually, Zoom dates?
Yeah, there was Zoom dates.
Chatting.
I just curious of how that went because I've heard about that.
I did a lot of Marco Polo dates.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot about that app.
That was more my speed, not necessarily Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a little easier to get.
Because I know that I heard of kids, they would like deliver food to their date's house and they would have the same food and then they would sit there on Zoom
that is so
and they would
romantic,
eat together and talk and get to know each other.
That's what I hear about
with
the
most romantic
people
thing
that
I've
do
ever heard.
long distance. They'll do that.
Really?
They'll like watch the same movie at the same time.
Now that's romantic.
And then they'll order like same type of food because they're obviously different states. Everybody on together.
That's really
sweet. My creativity came out a little bit.
Gives me hope
right?
for humanity when I hear that.
There you go.
So then, what was it easier dating before you were married or after? Because you had a little more experience.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say easier or harder. It was definitely different.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like you don't really know the person. You're making this snap judgment from a dating app.
Right.
And I kind of grew numb to the process, honestly, because I was like, after 10 minutes, you're just like mindlessly, scrolling. And, am I really giving him a chance? I don't know, because I'm just numb to it at this point, right?
Right.
And so it just kind of is a crazy thing. And then actually, so my now husband, because I am remarried, he saw me on the dating app. And he reached out because he knew of me beforehand.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of how that happened. But then here's the funny thing. Then I friend zoned him.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Little payback.
It was, a lot.
So he knew of you because you had a reputation, or because
it was because she was in a cover band.
Yeah,
it was the cover band.
Yeah, he was a groupie.
No,
funny enough, and I talk about this in my book, Full Transparency. So he was my neighbor
Oh.
He was married when I was married.
Scandalous, see, there we did it again.
I know.
It's starting to sound like a sitcom.
Right?
Yeah.
I promise you nothing nefarious happens. I do not do drama. It's so overrated.
He's one of the boys, remember?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you were neighbors. You were friends.
Yeah.
You knew his wife. You knew your husband.
Yeah.
It was just a platonic neighborhood friendship.
Yeah, I just
Nothing
knew
more than
my
that.
neighbor.
And that's why you friend zoned him, is because he was your former neighbor.
Right? Exactly. Well, that, and I was, learning how to trust myself again after a devastating divorce, right? That whole thing. But
we understand. We totally understand. We're with you here.
But I mean, I think that's the key of dating, is like figuring out how to take care of yourself and learning to love yourself, right?
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing that I learned through my second round of dating, right? It was like, I got to learn how to love myself a little bit better, take care of myself, and become the best version of me so that I can attract what I want in a person, right? Like, I think we just go in thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to find somebody and it's going to work out. But it's like, no, we got to do that self-reflection and look and say, well, do I like this about me? Is somebody else going to like this about me? How can I improve, right? And taking care of yourself and seizing those days. Like, I so wish I could take back the nights when I was single in my 20s and just crying myself to sleep, thinking, what's wrong with me? Why does nobody like
the famous
me?
question.
Wow, yes.
Am I not enough? Am I weird? Like, have I missed the mark somewhere? Like all those questions that plague you.
It's interesting what you said, and I think it probably came with maturity, is a lot of times we talk to people and they're looking for someone to make themselves. They think someone else is going to provide their happiness, where once you were older and more mature, you realized that you had to become happy before you could meet somebody else.
Totally.
And so I think that's an important thing to notice, because I think a lot of people, they're sad, they're lonely, and they think somebody else is going to come and rescue them and bring their happiness. But really, you got to focus on yourself first.
For sure.
Well, what would you tell your 20-year-old crying self in their bedroom now?
I would just say kind of like what I said before, like carpe diem, right? Like seize the day, take those opportunities of, I want to try this class, I want to skydive, I want to do this thing, and do that. Get to know yourself so that you know who you are before you're ready to open yourself up to love, right? And kind of let go of those expectations. I think for me, expectations defined my life for so long, right? Not only because of just church culture in general, but also I was the oldest of four. I thought I had to set that example, right? Like, so I put a lot of pressure and expectations on myself that were a lot of them self-imposed looking back, right? Because I'm like, my family's not looking at me thinking, oh, you've failed because you weren't married at 21, right? And so just kind of giving myself that grace to be like, it's okay to figure out who you are and how you can become a better version of yourself so that you can attract what you're hoping to have in a relationship.
So you're saying if I built a garden, see, these guys
going into a metaphor from another podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's worth repeating, in which it goes right along with what you did. So we had a young man who was the student body president at UVU. And he said that there were, for a while, he was going out like searching for butterflies, and he was like trying to grab them all over. And he was trying to date and he couldn't get anything to hit. And so finally he just realized, if I would concentrate more on building my garden and building myself, he goes, then all the butterflies will come to my garden, which is exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
you need to work on yourself and who you are, and improve yourself and be happy with who you are. And then all of a sudden, everything else works out and some of the butterflies start to come.
Yeah, for sure.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Zach.
Macie, at first I thought, oh no, he's going to do this story again. But that's actually a great story, isn't it? Once he got done, I thought, okay, all right, that was worth it. That was good visual imagery. I'm seeing this now.
For those that didn't listen to it, you need to listen to it.
You need to listen to that episode. But if you didn't, that was a great...
So, Zach Whitlock? He was on, so go back and listen to that episode. He was great.
Yeah.
He is great.
Well, and it's nice to hear, because as I was writing this story, I was like, is it just is it a woman thing? Like, are we just more self-critical, or are men experiencing this too, right? And so during COVID, I actually reached out to some old friends from my singles ward and was like, hey, where are you at on the dating journey? How are you doing? How has this been for you, right? Picking the male brain to see kind of their perspective.
Right.
And something that one of my friends said was actually really profound. And he said, I spent most of my 20s trying to convince someone to love me.
Oh.
And then I realized, no, I need to love myself and focus on my goals. He's like, and because of that, I'm happier and I've accomplished a lot more in my 30s than I ever did in my 20s, right?
I like that a
So
lot.
it's like that shift in perspective. And yeah, it was kind of comforting to hear that like men were experiencing that too, right? Because
So it made you feel good that men were miserable
yeah,
also.
right? Yeah, I'm not alone, right? Like we're all feeling this. It's not just an isolated event.
We feel it too.
Yeah.
And that those feelings of inadequacy are universal.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I do think it's really important what you're saying is that we can't just sit and be depressed. You have to get out and do something.
Yeah.
And if you're not dating and no one's asking you out or you're too nervous to ask someone out, go to the gym.
Yeah.
Go talk to your grandmother more. Go make some cookies for somebody or go do service, do something. And learn to love yourself more. That's one of the big things I think we've learned in this podcast is to really begin to learn to take care of yourself.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
for sure. Yeah, I would agree
Yeah.
with that one.
Yeah.
100%. So I'm curious in your book, how is it laid out? Because it's only a pre-sale right now. You just got your own copy.
I did.
So what is the chapters look like? Is it like your life story? Is it advice? Like, is it just stories?
So, yeah, it's a lot of like, I mean, each chapter has a story and then it kind of ties into like what I learned from that.
Okay.
Right. And kind of this shift of seeing dating as drudgery and something that has to be completed versus like my shift in mindset of it's an opportunity, right? And how can we start seeing dating as an opportunity instead of an expectation or a checklist item or something that we just have to do, right? And so it was kind of that mental shift of how can I make the most out of a date or what did I learn from that experience, even though it's a crazy scenario, right? And
Yeah,
so,
totally. Do you want to
so
give
yeah,
us an example you have in there? Like, this is a date I had and this is what I learned from it.
Yeah. So one, the first one that popped in my head. So I was newly back from my mission in my small hometown, and this guy, we'd gone on maybe 2 dates. So it wasn't even like, and it was casual. We weren't like exclusive or
Right.
anything. He was going on other dates. I was going on other dates. And I decided, hey, I want to move to Salt Lake, right? I had a friend who was in a townhouse and there's just more dating opportunities out in a bigger city. So
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to do it, right? And so I told this guy, hey, I prayed about it. I've decided I'm going to move to Salt Lake. I feel good about it. And he just kind of like heartbroken looks at me and goes, well, what about us? I was like, well, I didn't realize there was an us, first of all, right? Like, I was like,
We've been on 2 dates.
yeah, I was like, you haven't even kissed me. Like, I don't know what this is. And so I just kind of said, well, no, I didn't pray about us, but I did pray about my decision to move and I feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
And
us.
yeah, yeah, right. And but then but I thought you could have been the one. And I was like, well, I'm feeling that. So sorry, Charlie.
And apparently neither's God, because he told me to.
Yeah, I was like, I'm happy with my decision, right? But after the fact, as I reflected on it, I appreciated that like he had the faith to maybe have that mindset going in, whereas I kind of just like willy-nilly go about it sometimes, right? So for me, it was just that reminder of like, yeah, check in with yourself, seek that inspiration, and try to, make the best decisions, but also don't let someone else dictate, right? Like they don't receive revelation for you.
Really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a big takeaway for me too. Because he's over here saying, well, but you're the one.
And you're like,
but I'm not feeling that. So I don't think so. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, and I heard a story recently from one of my students where there was a comment about basically like, I've received revelation and God says you're a 2 type of thing.
What?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Right?
God,
What's going on?
okay, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
God says, so we're talking like a 2 out of 10?
Yeah,
on
like a
scale?
2 out of 10.
Oh.
And God says you're a 2?
Right? Yeah.
Oh.
And
Yeah,
that
right.
was,
I think that's the definition of blasphemy right there.
Right?
You
But
know?
I was like, that's another perfect example of like, why do we use that as like a kind of a manipulation tactic? And I'm like, that's not okay. Like we can't receive revelation for other people. And so we got to keep that in check too.
Why in
when
the
we're dating.
world would you tell
I don't know.
someone that, young man? There's just no
Okay, now this
reason
is
at
just
all.
an isolated,
I'm going to go
crazy
back.
person. This is not all young
I
men
know,
are out
I
there.
know.
I want to
Say
go
that.
back to one of our past podcasts, and please go listen to this one with Candlin Newell.
Mhm.
And she was our etiquette expert, remember? Do
Mhm.
you remember what she said? Think about the other
Right.
person and how to make them feel good. Why would
No,
you say
come on.
anything?
Oh,
Yeah.
Just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Don't ever don't say anything that would intentionally hurt someone.
Yeah.
There's just no need for that.
There's not. And you can tell when it's the reverse. I've been on a date, multiple dates with this one guy who is insanely good at making everybody feel so good about themselves. I've never heard one word come out of his mouth that is mean or rude, or like sometimes people will make jokes about other people that are, it kind of hits at them. Never. And like everybody that talks to him is like, he is so great and so nice and is the best. And so you can tell on the reverse side, if you're going to say something mean, then people remember it. But people remember you even more if you're not.
See, you could take that same thing, and it would be a great line if you said to a young lady, I prayed about it, and God said you're a 10. That's going to get you a second date, right?
You're a 10, but it's just not going to work.
Yeah, like flip the script, right?
Yeah.
Bob, I used to hear that all the time.
Did you really? Girls would tell you that you were a 10?
I'm a 10.
Oh, there you go. Love it.
I think I'm a 10.
Oh, well,
See,
but you got to start with yourself, Tom. See, this is good therapy for Tom. We're making headway here.
It is. It is. You have to, flip the script, right? Like recognize the awesomeness that's in you, because I believed the hater for a long time, right? Because I had a lot of my flaws pointed out for me.
How convenient.
Yeah, it was great, right?
Yes. Yeah. What a service.
And I wasn't in a place where I could handle that. And I believed him over my own instinct, right? For too long. And I think that's...
okay, tell the young women out there or the young men, how do you deal with that one? About you began to believe them. How did you get out of that?
A lot of journaling. I think a lot of self-reflection, right? I joke and say I probably wrote this book as therapy for me to like process it all, right? Because it's kind of ever evolving and changing, and just surrounding yourself with supportive people, right? Like go to your friends, say, hey, how am I perceived? Like what is good about me? What do you think about me, right? And start believing the good things you hear about yourself, instead of believing those doubts and those fears, right? And I say, so my mission president always used to say, we want godly sorrow, not depression, right? You want to reflect and say, how can I be a better person? But you don't want it to spiral into that depression thing. That's where Satan feeds.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? So it's kind of the, not today, and kind of taking back control of those thoughts and saying, okay, and my roommates would challenge me every time they heard me say something negative about myself. They'd be like, hey, now you got to say 5 positive things.
Right.
And so it's kind of an intentional effort to reprogram your brain to say, no, I'm not going to go to the negative. I'm going to recognize like, hey, I'm a good friend. Hey, I listened. Hey, I helped this person. Right. And recognizing those good qualities about yourself. If it means you have to slap it on a Post-it note on your mirror every morning and say it out loud as an affirmation, like recognize the awesomeness that is in you. I think there's so many haters that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be haters as well.
Really good point. Really good point.
Now, she has a book in front of us that is full of crazy stories. And I want to hear
we need more of those. So.
We need more of those.
More of those. I'm trying to think. So I teased my cousin because he was fired from ever setting me up on a date after my mission, because I had met this guy, we went on a date, and then I woke up to this like random text that I was like, I didn't know somebody knew so many adjectives, right? Like, and I hardly knew him. We went on one date and are you up yet, my foxy, tempting, devilish delight? And I was like, wow, whoa. Yeah, so that one was pretty crazy. And I told my cousin, I was like, yeah, you're fired. I'm never being set up on a date again.
Was the date normal?
Foxy, tempting, devilish delight.
Right?
Wait, that's not normal.
Yeah, right.
That's what I used to do.
Every time I wake up.
I know. And again, I can't make this up. I remembered it because it was so out there, right?
That's crazy.
It was.
So you take one of those words out, and it's still bad.
I know.
There's not really a word in there that would be good in that sentence.
And I mean, and how would you respond to that, right? Like,
the only way you could just say is, great, how are you?
Yeah, it's like, I'm just
best day of my life.
Here.
So what caused that, do you think? I mean, you've gone out with this guy. What was he thinking? What was going on in him?
What was he thinking?
That is the question.
I have no
idea. I don't know.
Well, this not is the answer to that. But it's likely that he got that on a fortune cookie or in a magazine or something. I don't think that you could come up with something like that.
Yeah, he was trying something.
He was trying. Give him a break. He was trying.
And I think it's one of the things we've talked about in this podcast. It's an ongoing problem with our boys that they just don't know what to do.
Right. That's the problem.
And so they don't know what to do, so they overdo it.
They do.
Yeah. And it's not, I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's, maybe a personality flaw in some ways. But I think we have to do a better job of training our young men of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And he probably really was trying to be complimentary.
Probably,
and he just failed
He
miserably.
heard about alliteration. He thought, oh,
something. Yeah.
I'm in my English class. They call
But
alliteration. I'm going to try it this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was like fresh off a mission, right?
Oh, yeah. So let's get back to the dating app. So you're on the dating app.
Yeah.
And you run across this guy or a guy or two.
Yeah.
And in particular, the one that you ended up marrying, but you saw him on a dating app.
I didn't see him. That's the funny
he
thing.
saw you?
He saw me.
Oh,
and
so
then messaged me on Facebook.
say it was mutual. Say it was mutual.
It was mutual.
Ah, there you go.
Mutual.
It was on mutual.
It was on
Because
Mutual.
Mutual is one of the sponsors of this podcast.
Hey,
They
perfect.
sponsor.
And
Yeah.
A
kids, we love
success
Mutual.
story,
Use
Mutual.
Mutual
And-
all the time.
And we just had the guys from Mutual on. So go back
Great.
and listen to that
There you go.
podcast
That was
too.
really
So
interesting. Go listen to that.
it was a great podcast. So you were on Mutual
Yeah.
and
Well, and like
he
I
saw
said,
you.
yeah, and I was kind of numb to the whole process, right? So I kind of I downloaded it on a whim because I had a friend who was in her 30s, single, and she's like, "I want to live vicariously through you. You always have good dating stories."
Oh, my.
And so she's like,
Did you read
"Download
Did
this
you
app."
read my book?
Are you going to send her this book?
She's read it. Yes, she's read it. She's like, "All right, this
Yeah,
makes
that's what
sense."
I want. I want a piece
Yeah.
of that. That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Yes. And so I did it just because, it's COVID. You know, you have time. What else am I going to do? Right.
Right.
I'm living in my parents' house. Like, okay. So,
Mhm.
but anyway, so I never saw him on the dating app. And then he messages me on Facebook and he goes, "Well, hey, are you divorced?" I was like, "Yeah, I sure am." And he's like, "Wow, I did not see that coming." It's like, well, funny story. Neither did I.
Neither did I.
You know, and so we decided, hey,
We
we'll
never
meet up,
do.
right? Yeah. And so anyway, we met up and just kind of commiserated over our first marriages and what we learned and how we grew. And, it was a first date that turned into 10 hours and
Oh,
just
keep talking.
conversation. Yeah, it was a great,
Whoa, when
you
did
know.
the date start? When did it end?
So it was a lunch date.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
so went out for lunch. It's just
Went out
lunch.
for lunch. Yeah, went out for lunch.
That
And
works.
I was actually staying at my brother's house because this was like on the cusp of where things were starting to get a little bit better. We didn't have to isolate and quarantine
Right.
so much.
Mhm.
And so I went out to the city and stayed at my brother's house. And I told him, I said, I'll give it till 4. Like, that's 4 hours. That should be plenty.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So I was like, because I was like, I don't know what we're doing. And he's like, okay, because I was staying at his house. And so 6 o'clock rolls around and I get a phone call from my brother.
Are you okay?
Yeah, he's like, if you're
Good
not
brother.
okay,
Yeah.
it's the word tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry, I'll be home
See you
soon."
tomorrow. I
Yeah.
mean, wait, no.
Yeah. And so then it turned into dinner time. And so then he takes me to dinner. And then he drops me off at my brother's house at 10 p.m. So it was like
Wow.
noon to 10 p.m. Right?
That's wild.
It was pretty crazy.
You guys had a lot to
Long
talk
date.
about.
We did have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So
Well, you knew each other, so that was
Right.
kind of a little being able
makes it
to break it
easier.
all
yeah,
down.
I mean, the extent of, oh, hi, neighbor. You
Right,
know, like
right.
I knew where he, that he worked in banking and that he owned a truck.
Okay,
You know,
so
but I
what
didn't
was
know
it
what-
about him?
What more is there to know about a man
right?
than that?
I know.
You work in banking,
Well,
you got a truck,
Okay, so that I was going to say, what is it about him? But it was he
Yeah,
worked
there
in
you go.
banking. so-
Yeah.
and had a truck. Come on.
No, I think it was just he challenged me in ways that I hadn't been challenged
Oh.
before with dating. I was very much I'm just going to suppress all of my emotions because I don't want to feel the discomfort of anything and I'm fine and put on a brave face. And he's a more emotional guy than I am. So he drew that out of me. And helped
So was
me-
he open with his feelings first?
He was.
And so you
Yeah.
saw that he was vulnerable, and that
Mhm.
made you feel like you could be vulnerable.
Yeah, for sure.
And
yeah.
see, that's an interesting thing there, because a lot of times that's what it takes to get people to open is one person to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah, very true.
One person to take that risk
definitely.
of being vulnerable. And it worked out.
Yeah,
him.
for sure.
Do you still
Well-
have the truck?
No,
Oh.
we actually sold it. I know.
They still
Uh,
work in banking.
No, he does
Oh,
not.
no, she's strike two.
Other-
Yeah.
I know, right? Now he's got a way better job that he loves
Oh,
a lot
wow.
more.
Okay.
So
Okay,
you
okay,
know,
that's
it's
fine.
better.
Alright.
Yeah, but
So how long was it from the first date, or should I ask this, from the first date until you were married?
I believe it was 18 months, 18,
Oh,
20.
that's a
Okay.
pretty good time.
So
That's
it
a
was-
pretty
yeah.
good time.
Okay.
Because you got to keep in mind, I friend zoned him 3 times within that
3
period. I
times?
did.
Wow.
Okay,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
friend zoned him after the first date?
Yes, I
Oh,
did.
my
Well,
goodness, you are
so
brittle, aren't you?
I am. I own it.
Ah, there you
That's
go.
part of this journey, right?
Yeah, well.
Releasing it.
And
like,
that the fact
owning
that
it.
he hung in there.
Well, yeah, speaks
is-
volumes to him.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I told him, that was when I was kind of going through this. Well, hey, I just feel like I need to be in a place where I can love and trust myself again. before I'm ready to let
Oh,
someone
I
else.
see.
Yeah,
So you wanted to work on yourself.
I
It wasn't
did.
necessarily him that
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
putting on hold. You were saying, I've got to work on myself
Yeah.
here before I'm ready.
Yeah, because I was still, carrying some
Did you
trauma from
articulate that
divorce.
to him?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
See, well,
When I said, so I appreciate you as a friend. You've been here. And he's like, okay. And he's like, well, I need to step back and see if I can just be your
That
friend.
by the way, that is
Mm.
the definition of friend zoning.
saying,
It is.
let's just stand back and be friends in this zone.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, that would be the definition of
Yeah.
friend zone,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
And so, yeah, he showed up as a friend, no pressure. I would reach out to him when I'm like, hey, can I run something by you or let's chat? And he kind of just was there as a friend and a support. And then as time went on, I was like, all right, like this could probably be a little bit more, but that's scary. And so then started dating again. And then I got scared again and friend zoned him again, because it's a process.
well,
right?
it is
Like,
scary, but especially when you've been through it one time. You don't want to
Yes.
jump right back into something
Yeah.
and have it not. So you are more cautious the second time around,
For
which is
sure.
smart to do.
Yeah.
Some people aren't. Some people, they're too
Yeah.
quick, and that's why you see a lot of second
Yeah.
marriages that don't that end in divorce.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was smart that you took that time. 18 months,
It's
that's
a long time.
long
So what
time.
was it?
Yeah.
What was the little thing that kind of clicked? Or was there something that clicked with
You
this
know,
guy?
Are you still
I-
waiting for that? You're waiting for that.
Well, it's funny because I think growing up, we do have this idea because, you hear those spiritual revelation
Right,
stories. Like,
right.
I just knew they were the person, or there was
Yeah.
this lightning bolt strike and I
Mhm.
knew. I don't think that's the norm
I don't
for a
think it is
lot
either.
of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we're gauging it on, right? So we're all waiting for that, like, yes, this is 100% invested. You have to do this, right?
Right.
And I won't say that I got that lightning bolt with my husband, right? But I prayed about it. I felt good about it. I knew that we challenged each other. We could have the hard conversations.
That's good.
I had a relationship where no hard conversations were had, right? And things were avoided and you just
Yeah.
felt isolated.
I've had one of those too.
Yeah. It's so fun, right?
No.
But yeah, it's yeah. So
We're
it was
commiserating
fun.
here,
Yeah,
so-
we are
Right.
commiserating. But
There's a
Talk
whole
about
episode about
this.
mine.
I've never been married.
So maybe how are you been
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
Macie? How's
Doing good.
it
Doing pretty good.
going? You guys just go on. Just
yeah,
keep going.
right. Yeah. That could take a whole
That's a whole other
Turd.
podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it was just realizing like, yeah, what are the things that matter the most to me? Is this person in it with me? Are they willing to do hard? Because I think the reality is we all think marriage is going to be sunshine and roses and it's always fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tease my husband to this day. I'm like, but we have that foundation of a solid friendship.
Yeah.
Right.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we
because
fall
it is
back on
it is
that.
hard.
It is hard.
As much as you'd like to think that it's perfect, and
Yeah.
especially when you're just meeting each other and you get engaged and you're early married, you just think how wonderful everything's going to
Yeah.
be. But it is really hard. And the one thing that I have learned in my life is that it is important to talk.
Yes.
It is important to sit down with someone and have those hard conversations, even at the beginning. If there's something that is going on, you need to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the word of caution I give to that is if somebody that you're dating doesn't want to have the hard conversation, that's a red flag.
Right.
It's a big red
They're
flag.
hiding
So
something.
it would be interesting to contrast here with both of you, because you have both been through this, of taking a look at the things that you were thought important on the first time compared to the things you thought were really important the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I actually did that exercise after
Really?
I was divorced because I was like, yeah, what went wrong the
Mhm.
first time, right? And I looked
Sure,
in the mirror,
he's a banker and he's got a truck, but how important is that really?
right? Yeah, check, I'm done. But yeah, so I did. I kind of reevaluated my values and was like, well, does that matter? Or what does matter? And what am
Mhm.
I looking for? And a huge one was, yeah, honesty, is willing to step into those hard conversations and not blame you or,
Right.
not take accountability for their own stuff.
Right.
So
And
what,
that's huge.
what kind of hard conversations are you referring to?
Just like any of the awkward ones, right? Like, how do you handle finances? What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on parenting? Do you have any vices? Do you have any
Political
things?
views.
Yeah, political views
Yeah.
can be one. Yeah,
Yeah.
just difficult
The
conversations.
hard vices is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those are all really important.
Just the conversations where
And-
you feel
and
like
being-
you're calling the person out.
Mm.
And being willing to disagree
Yes.
with the person, and then that being okay.
Yes.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
Macie, I disagree with that, but you and I are still friends, right?
Yeah.
That's what's really hard sometimes
Mhm.
to talk about, because
Yeah.
sometimes I don't want to talk about it because I know you don't believe the same way. And, I'm afraid it's going to hurt our friendship. It's going to
Yeah,
hurt
yeah,
our
yeah.
marriage, and being afraid to do that. But I mean, look, this guy right here. Okay. We disagree all the time. all the time.
Wow.
I actually
but we're
wore
still
crimson today on his birthday.
You're right.
But we're still best friends, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about, and I think that's what
Yeah.
you're trying to say.
Conflict resolution
Yeah.
is something you don't think about when you're 19.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
That's nothing. Well, we're really
Yeah.
great at conflict
Yeah.
resolution. Yeah, but when later in life, it turns out that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people are passive aggressive.
Oh yeah.
They don't say what they're really meaning.
Yeah.
And then other people are very controlling,
Mm-hmm.
and they want their way all the time. And so a lot of times when you're young and you're dating and it's exciting and you're falling in love, you don't step back and take a look at those things. But that's why. So now, don't you wish that people who are 18, 19, 20 years old would pay attention to what you just said and take a look at things that are going to be lasting relationship pillars rather than some of the surface things that we look at when we're dating.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest difference between my first experience, right? Like I thought we had discussed all the things, right? Like that we were on the same page. And then the second time I was like, no, we really discussed all the
Let me get my list out here.
Yeah, like
See,
we dove into all of it.
We're just hoping that our little Macie is learning all these things.
I know
so.
I am. I'm so going to ask me all the questions you think that I need to talk to the boy about.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because things pop up, right? That even still, I'm like, oh, did we really dive into that? But I think it is that mutual respect that you can have for each other of, okay, I can see that you were raised this way and this is your thought, but this is my thought. And it's okay that we disagree, but you're not shutting me down and making me feel guilty for my feelings or how I've expressed myself. And I think that's the sign of a mature relationship where you can have those.
And it's okay that we don't agree on everything.
Yes,
I think the whole key to that is the ability to forgive.
Yes.
Because no matter what relationship you're going to be in, people are going to do something that's going to hurt you or make you mad. Does your potential partner, do they forgive quickly? Do they hold a grudge? And you can see that in their own family. Well, I haven't talked to my brothers in years. Okay, that's a red flag right there because you have friends that you have just written off. Yep. And so what is your ability to forgive others? Because pretty soon they're going to be mad at you.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes people will hold a grudge for years and years on things, and that keeps coming up every time. Yeah. And so being able to forgive quickly is really an important thing in relationship development.
For sure. And not bringing it up again, right? Like once you forget, like, this happened in the past.
Yeah, remember that time you did.
Yeah. You did this.
I'm not saying my wife says that all the time, Macie.
I didn't say anything.
I'm just saying here.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really fascinating. So tell everyone it's just in print. It just came out. Yeah. So where can our listeners find it?
Yeah, so it's available on cedarfort.com. It's also available on Amazon. So whichever one's easier for you. And I am in the works of creating an audiobook.
Good. Are you going to read it yourself?
I am going to read it myself.
Nice.
So you guys can hear my attitude and inflection through all these stories, right?
How she was actually
everything.
Yes, yeah, you'll feel the rage coming. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yes, no, maybe so.
Yes, no, maybe so.
And then it's a comedy of dating, divorce, and devotion. I'm just so excited to read it because I'm just excited to hear.
It's the must-have book. It's the must-have book.
It really is. And I think it's perfect for our listeners.
Yeah.
Because I think they've heard you talk now, and I think it's a lot of the things that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And how do we love ourselves? How do we make things right? How do we get in the dating game? And all those things are going to be here in this book. So thank you for writing this.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. And you have to be very vulnerable to do this. And so thank you for doing that and putting yourself out there.
And thank you for living through this.
Yeah, you know. Well, and
so that others don't have to. You know?
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, I'm going to write it so people can learn from my mistakes, but also learn how to just keep your faith and embrace your worth through those low points of when, how can I turn to the Savior? How can I do this? How can I better myself and make the most of my life with what I've been dealt, right? And rising above. So, yeah, it's definitely a very raw and vulnerable book, which as when I got the contract, I was like, am I ready for people to read this? Because it's like, it's out there.
Good, good. Well, thank you for writing it. Thank you for being brave enough to do that. And guys, go and buy it. Go and listen to, when she gets the audio out, listen to it. I just think this is going to be a real treat for all of us. So, Macie, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Tom.
Thank you. I'm a very young 35 today. So,
well, I called you 40, and I thought I was stretching it there. You backed it up to 35.
Well, guys, listen, go on our Instagram. It's at Dating Made Simple on Instagram. DM us. There's a really funny one with me on there.
Oh, is there?
By the way, yeah.
It's
so
really
me
funny.
and Emma,
Okay.
our interns, are on there. So she put
Okay.
something up that's really funny. So, Anjilee, you have an Instagram as well. Do you want everybody to go there? So
Sure, yeah.
wanna-
Follow me. It's Anjilee, ANJILEE.Ferguson. And that's my
And she's
handle.
got a lot of funny stuff up there. Her and her family do a lot of really fun things. So check
do.
that out. We really appreciate you guys being here. Anjilee, thank you again. And one more piece of advice before we go. I know it's my birthday, but I have to say this. Just go have fun out there, would you?